we were originally a standalone business school, and we were called the Alliance Business School. But and our existence goes back to the late 90s. Yeah, that's when we started, and we remained a standalone business school for over a decade's time. And that's when Alliance Business School, the sponsoring body, uh, sponsored the creation of a university called Alliance University. Uh, the bill was tabled in the Karnataka Assembly. The bill was passed, called the Alliance University Act of 2010, and that's how Alliance University came into existence. In fact, we're proud to say we're the first private university in the state of Karnataka. I think the Alliance University bill was passed, followed by the Azim Premji University bill. And so since 2010, we have our existence as a university. And there are three academic units at the university, which is, of course, the flagship one, the one that existed even before the university, is the School of Business. But then we added the College of Engineering and Design, and then the School of Law. So we are a private university formed under the aegis of the Karnataka government. We have a range of specializations, but I can tell you that the choice generally boils down to 4 or 5, what students end up picking, and which is marketing, finance, human resources, which is organizational leadership and strategy, and then operations. In addition to that, we have international business, communications management, retail, etc. We have that. They are not the popular choices. The 4 major verticals are the other popular choices. What we have, however, done is to ensure that some of these competencies required, for example, the ability to understand data and let data, talk and use data insights to make decisions. We've cut them across all possible verticals. For example, analytics is a course that every student takes at a general management level and at a functional level too. So we have a range of options that students can pick from. Mostly they end up picking marketing, finance, human resources, and operations. International business is another. Like I said earlier, retail, communications management. So we have all these. Data technology cuts across all verticals. We are already internationally accredited by IACBE. Now, IACBE is amongst the 3 accreditation bodies based out of the United States. IACBE being one, ASASB being the other, and ACBSP. In fact, we were the first business school to be accredited by IACBE. We are a candidate to the ASASB accreditation, and hopefully within a few years' time, we would be getting the ASASB accreditation too. I also want to say that IACBE, which accredited us as the first business school in the country, is CHEA recognized. Whether it's credit transfers, dual degree programs, summer semester exchange programs, etc. We have collaborative arrangements with institutions over pretty much all around the world. Around actually 50 countries. And so our partnerships are with the best universities, whether it's universities in the United States, in Europe, Far East, etc. We have articulation agreements of various kinds across the world. Yeah. It's a 70% cutoff that we have across all nationalized tests. So we consider all those nationalized tests. And then again, when you come in, you have the Alliance University, Alliance School of Business test, again, 70% cutoff. Yet, like I said earlier, the score that we create is a composite score of what the student has done at the 10th standard level, 12th standard level, undergrad, work experience, extracurricular achievements, etc. All of that has weightage combined with the weightage that comes from these tests, nationalized tests with a cutoff of 70%, plus the alliance, the selection process that we have. Very, very important. Like you said, I think diversity is the key to great ideas, great innovation. Because they say if there are 2 individuals who think alike in a company, you don't need one of them, right? And so diversity is the key. Yeah, and all these 3 variables that you mentioned, we are extremely diverse. In fact, the Alliance School of Business campus is a mini India. So we get students from across the states, from different states. And connecting to the earlier question, part of it is also that they're coming to an institution which is in Bangalore, right? So yeah, we get people from different states. Do we get people from different streams? You bet. I think partly that's because of the kind of assessment methodology that we put in place to pick students. It's a composite score. It's not quantitatively driven, right? The quantitative elements are not the only decision criteria when it comes to picking students. And so we have students coming from different backgrounds, undergrad streams that cut across. It could be biotech, it could be hospitality, it could be media, it could be engineering. It's still skewed in favor of engineering, but it's not like an 80-20 kind of a skew. It's probably a 40-60 kind of a skew. And so we get people from students from different undergrad streams. Gender ratio wise, again, it's a healthy mix, almost 50-50. Yeah. Placement, as usual, is pretty much 100%. So our students get placed. The question is, has the pandemic put a dampener to that? And the answer is no. And I'll tell you why. We have seen that, and we've got recruitment partners of 500 plus, and we're adding new partners every year. We've seen that most companies recruit not for the immediate future, but for the long term. So they are planning for the long term. And every company knows that this is just a dip. Industry is picking up, the economy is picking up. It will, of course, take some time for certain verticals, but we've seen that companies have not shied away from picking our students. It's just that the mode of selecting a student has moved completely online. So that's the only change that we have seen. There are some verticals that have pulled back, but whether it's financial services, consulting, real estate, etc., they're pretty much bang on right now, picking up our students. We have encountered that as not a problem at all. I think a lot of families today is extremely progressive, and I think I don't know whether you would agree, but I think sometimes it's women who are far more progressive than men in their thinking. Yeah, and so we haven't seen that as a problem. In terms of, let's say, campus accommodation, we're 60 plus acres. So there's amazing infrastructure for students to not just come and learn, but also to stay. And not just that, we also believe in this 100-mile radius kind of a concept, where we say, as an institution, we impact the community around us, right? And why do I say this? The infrastructure around Alliance is also pretty much developed, whether it's real estate, whether it's food and beverage, etc. So there are lots of options for students to stay close by too, though we would prefer to have them on campus. Why? Because we believe that learning is as much outside the classroom as it is inside. So yeah, I don't think any student has to worry. Gender doesn't matter. You've got ample options, whether to stay on campus or if outside. I wouldn't recommend it. You can. I'll tell you from our recent experience. So, which is the last batch of students who went in for internships. So what we did is we had three kind of models of internships. One is where they actually did internships with companies full time. Another is where they collaborated with company executives with the necessary approvals to do independent projects, where they were almost like on a consulting basis with companies. And finally, we had a hybrid model where students did internships with companies in addition to pursuing independent projects. So we have three kind of models in place, and we've seen that the outcome of it has been a huge success in terms of students not just taking away knowledge about the industry, about what happens out there, but also doing something on their own. Like I said, there was an independent project attached to the internship project. Why? Because this was happening remote. And so we believe that students had ample time to pursue two kinds of projects. And so we either did it separately or we blended it together. And I can tell you the results have been amazing. Yeah. Right up front, let me answer and say location is extremely important. An institution doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of a larger ecosystem. It's part of a larger business ecosystem. I think the best business ecosystem, and again, probably I'm biased here because I live in Bangalore. I love the city of Bangalore. But I think the best possible ecosystem, business ecosystem for young people today is Bangalore. I live in a place which is close to Koramangala, HSR layout. There are close to 1,000 startups out there, right? Startups have been hit for a while now post-COVID. But what I'm trying to say is that the ecosystem is young. It's completely entrepreneurial driven. It almost mirrors the Bay Area in San Francisco. So yeah, and as an institution, we feed off the city. We take what the city has to offer. We give back to the city in terms of its business activities, in terms of collaborative relationships at the course level, at the program level, etc. So yeah, I think it's extremely important. I think students who are going to join Alliance School of Business, a part of Bangalore, are going to be are going to have an enriching experience just having exposure to this climate. It's highly intellectual. It's young people driven. The models are tech driven. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I agree that city matters a lot. And if I were to recommend students to pick a city, I'd say pick Bangalore number one. I know I'm biased, but yeah, Bangalore should be the place they should. We have partners where we can have a double degree or dual degree program. It could be a semester exchange program. It could be a summer school kind of a program. It could be an internship opportunity. For example, our students a few years ago went to Russia to the Togliatti Academy while the World Cup was on. They did an internship connected to the World Cup. So from the lowest level, and if I can call it a low level, which is an internship opportunity, to semester exchanges, to summer school programs, to dual degree programs, etc., we have a range of options across institutions. Yeah, again, you're absolutely right that students are ultimately looking at the outcome and not the process. Yeah, if the process is fixed right, the outcome is going to automatically come, right? And every student, doesn't matter student, every professional is going to be judged in terms of their market worth. So what we tell at Alliance is, listen, the process is here to facilitate, the ability, to skill yourself and then take those contemporary skills into the marketplace. So what we have done is we have a program in place that mirrors the requirements of the industry for today and tomorrow. So we know that, the kind of unemployability rate amongst business school graduates is huge in this country. And that's because they're graduating with degrees, but not skills, right? So our focus has been completely on ensuring that students are skilled. And how do we do this? Every course, is aligned to a skill outcome, a particular skill outcome. Integrated together, every semester is delivering on a certain set of skill sets. And finally, integrated all together, semesters put together, a student is graduating with contemporary skill sets. And how do we christen this? We believe that every student who graduates from Alliance graduates as a deep generalist. He has a thorough understanding of business per se, all functions, integrated together, etc. Plus is a specialist, right? Specializes in a particular function simply because the student has inherent competencies in that particular area. The student is keen on pursuing a career in that particular area. And we believe that's probably going to be the starting point to their career. Over years, of course, they move into general management areas, run companies, etc. Yeah. Like you said, students tend to think a mobile tower and a flyover is development, right? And that represents probably 10% of what the country is, right? Then the rest of the 90% lives elsewhere, has got a completely different life, right? Part of the reason as to why students don't see beyond the tower and the flyover is because they've been conditioned that way. These are metro-based students. They've seen life within a certain bubble. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to help them understand what is outside of the bubble. And the question is, how do we do that? Yeah, and like I said earlier, inherently the fact that we've got diversity on campus ensures that students, through their experience with each other, know that there are other worlds, right? So that they come to know that. How do we then put that into the classroom? What we do is we try and expose them to the outside world as much as possible through programmatic activities. So let me give you an example. Every semester, we've got a longitudinal project running. For example, the first semester, we've got a tracker business. In the second semester, we have got what is called Startup to Scale Up, where they work with startups to understand as to how they can scale up. Many of these startups that they work are social ventures, are into social entrepreneurship. So that way, their exposure tells them that here's a company that's creating creating value for not just the metro-based consumer, but beyond that. In the third semester, we have something called as launch a venture. And finally, we have got what is called as impact a community. So what we do is through these projects, we get students to expose themselves to the realities that they otherwise have not been exposed to, growing up. There's a certain reality that they know. And we tell them, and this is something that every professor through their course tries to help students understand. There's exercises that step into that social territory, because we believe that you don't just graduate a business professional, but you graduate as an enlightened citizen. In the end, business contributes to an economy, to a country more than anything else, right? Business changes people's lives, right? And to help them understand this, we make that as a part of the culture of the institution. And we show that to them through actions of ours. For example, we're in a place called Anakel. People who work on the Alliance campus have been drawn from the local community. We want to have a harmonious coexistence with them. We've adopted schools around. Students are part of, let's say, exercises of going to these schools, teaching these students outside of classroom, their regular classroom time, English, helping them understand things around them, providing them with material, etc. So in a little way, to the limited means possible, we tell the student and we show the student that there's a world beyond the flyover and the telecom tower, right? And that it's far more important to graduate an enlightened citizen than just a narrow-minded business professional. So we try and do our best. So I think a marriage between the two is perfect, right? That's the optimal state, right? So let me start with the second question. So what do we prefer? You see, McKinsey has said recently that the future belongs to people who are called intentional learners. And that is people who use every opportunity to learn. Intentional learners possess two characteristics. One, they have got what is called as a growth mindset, and the other one is called a curiosity mindset. And growth mindset, where they don't believe that their intelligence is a given, that it can be grown. Curiosity mindset is to look at every opportunity to learn from, to be inherently, looking at whatever is happening around and understand that. Okay, why did I say this? We prefer intentional learners. People who come into the campus who have a mindset which says learning is not just inside the classroom, but it's outside of the classroom too. And that every opportunity that we provide outside of the classroom for them to learn, they latch onto it. And that they are driven to do that. Because today we're not sages on the stages, right? We're coaches by the sidelines. That day is gone. Today, students have access to learning from all over the world. So there is no monopoly over knowledge that anybody holds. We understand that. But we want to facilitate the inherent competencies of these students to ensure that they end up learning, they end up using that learning productively in the industry, that they're driven from within. So that's who we prefer. People who are intentional learners, who have that hunger to learn. The first part of the question is, why should students prefer us? I'm gonna put that down into one concept, because that's the pivot around which we exist. And that is assurance of learning. You will be assured great learning. If you want to come in with the right kind of mindset, with a hunger to learn, we will give you every opportunity to learn, right? An example, I'm just giving this as an example. We know that technology has pretty much disrupted not just industries, they've disrupted functions. Take marketing, for example. Once upon a time, it was the one-to-many format in communication, that marketers are all the power. Today, that's dead. Today, it's a many-to-many kind of format. No one's listening to the marketer. Everyone's listening to somebody who's a non-marketer, because they find that non-marketer is far more credible, right? We understand that. And we say students need to be able to leverage this new, let's say, communication platform to build brands. And so we've introduced courses, for example, like inbound marketing, growth hacking, where your communication spends are minimal, yet you're growing from, let's say 10,000 users to 1 million users within 6 months' time. Companies have done that. Take Canva as an example. Again, what am I trying to say? Students should prefer us because our focus is completely on assuring them great learning. The infrastructure, whether it's soft infrastructure, the hard infrastructure, whether it's the intellectual capital on board, whether it's the community that we have built, everyone's focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is assurance of learning. That is why students should prefer us.